Hey everyone, and welcome back to FSI DFS. I am McKinley412, and today we're going to be looking at this 14-game slate on DraftKings for Friday. It is a large slate, but thankfully we don't have too much weather that we have to be paying attention to. We have a little rain issue going on in New York with the Mets, but I think it's going to be passing before first pitch, so no post-moment threats tonight. I think everything's good to go. Pitching on this slate, as you can see, is pretty disgusting. So not a lot of options. You're going to be kind of going through here and saying, I don't want to pay that much for this pitcher, but I kind of have to because there's no other options. So what we're going to do is I'll give you 5-6 pitchers that I'm interested in the most on this slate, 5 or 6 teams and bats that I'm interested in, and we'll just call it there. Just because I can't go through every game, we'd be here for over an hour. So pitchers, top pitcher that I'm going to be looking at is Charlie Morton going up against Miami. He's been in nice form with the strikeouts as of late. He's 28% strikeout rate on the season. Past 2 games haven't been the best, especially at a 9.6K price tag. But like I said, you're going to be going through all these pitchers and being like, I don't want to pay this much for him. I don't want to pay this much for him, but you kind of have to. So Charlie Morton, I think, would be your top option on the slate. After him, I would look down to a guy like a Walker going up against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, they don't strike out a lot as a team, but Walker's got a nice floor. He does have that strikeout upside. He can go deep into games if he wants. But I do think comparatively to the rest of the pitchers on the slate, I think he's in one of the better matchups. And is one of the better pitchers on this slate. So 9K, him a little bit cheaper than Morton, but I think he's still a little too expensive, but still a fine play. We all know what he can do. I mean, look at his logs here. He's got 3 games here, close to 30 or above 30. So fine option there. Alex Cobb is probably my third guy up top here that I would be looking at. 9.8K. It's just far too expensive. If this is a regular slate, we had a guy like DeGrom or Cole or Scherzer or whoever, we're not paying 9.8 for Alex Cobb. But on this slate, you might be looking his direction just because of his ceiling. I mean, he has a great ceiling, but he also does not have a floor at all. Going up against Seattle, it's a nice matchup. They're a decent team. They got a winning record on the season, but there's not a great offense. So I do think Cobb could, even if he lands in the middle and throws out an 18, 19-point game, that might be one of the better pitching scores on the slate tonight. So it's gross. I don't want to pay 9.8 for Alex Cobb, but you could definitely plug him in and hope for a stealing game because there is a lot of value out there, especially with Philadelphia. But we'll get to them later on. So Morgan, Walker, Cobb, 3 guys I'm looking up at top. But I think these 2 guys are going to be even more chalk than just because of their price tag and their matchups. Manoa, he faced Tampa Bay last time out and put up 37 points on 10 strikeouts. He's going up against that same Tampa Bay team. I do not expect him to get 37 points here again. Maybe he'll show up in the 20s, but even if he lands at 20, that's still 3 times value. So 7K is just too cheap for him. But Tampa Bay, they do have a lot of nice lefties in their lineup. So there is a little bit of concern there. And we know that, Manoa can get hit. So 7K, I'm not saying he's a safe option, but I do think he's going to be a very, very popular option on the slate tonight. He's going to gain a lot of ownership. Aside from Manoa, I'd be looking at Maida. Last time out, 35 DK points. He was feeling it last time out. Now going up against Detroit, not a great offense, not a bad offense, but still 7.1K for a guy like Maida going up against Detroit. I think he's in another great spot here as well. So if you're looking down here, Manoa is probably your number 1. Maida is your number 2. And if you want to separate yourself from them, I'd be looking at Thompson and Brubaker. Thompson's going up against Atlanta for the 3rd time this season, or 3rd time in the past month. And he's done pretty well against them, 24 and 15 points respectively. But, you know, this is also the third time that Atlanta is going to be seeing Thompson. So maybe they figured some things out against him, and he's not going to do as well. But 6.9K, it's not going to hurt you in your lineup too much. The other guy, Brubaker, going up against the Mets. I think Brubaker, you know, he's not a bad pitcher. He's a decent pitcher. And we all know those Mets bats can really struggle. So I think he's a nice pivot if you really want to get off the ownership and the chalk of Manoa and possibly Maida here. So that kind of wraps up the pitcher, or at least, I mean, it doesn't wrap everything up. If I didn't get to somebody, it doesn't mean that I hate them. It just means that they're not really on my radar. But those are the 6-7 pitchers that I mentioned. So let's turn towards the bats. The highest over-under on the slate here is this Boston-Philadelphia game. We'll talk about Boston first, going up against Velasquez. He does allow a lot of hard contact. You probably just going to be going with these big three bats of Boston, Devers, Martinez, and Bogarts. If you want to get away from them, you know, I'd be looking at Verdugo and Vasquez. Kike, you know, leading off on one of the highest offenses on the slate in a good matchup. He just really struggles against right-handed pitching, and he's like he's in the lower 200s in batting average. So 4.6K is not great, but I think if you want to go there, you know, again, he's in a nice spot. I don't think you're gonna hurt yourself by doing that. But Kike is that second base outfield eligible, but if you're second base tonight, Segura, just jamming Segura at second base if he's starting. 3.3K is just way too cheap. I think against right-handed pitching over the past month, he's hitting over 400 on the season. He's hitting close to like 350. 3.3K, he's just too cheap, too cheap. Garrett Richards is not a great pitcher. I know his last time out against Oakland, he did well, but I love Segura. He's going to be one of the locks on the slate for pretty much everybody, I think. Gaining one of the highest ownerships of the bats. So I love Segura, and really all of Philadelphia is just way too cheap. I mean, you got Hoskins and Harper up here, but below them, you're already below 4K for everybody. So I'd be looking at Segura. I'd be looking at McCutchen, Herrera. You know, a lot of the Phillies, they have a lot of nice lefties. Herrera, Harper, Didi Gregorius. You know, Miller just came off a 3 home run game. So Philadelphia, one of the top options on the slate, 46. One of the top options on the slate, and they are super cheap. So I love them. Apart from them, I do like Minnesota going up against Detroit and Manning, and just that terrible Detroit bullpen behind them. They also, again, they have nice value on this team here. Arias at 3.4 could possibly be leading off, and Larnach at 2.8. Both, I mean, a switch hitter and a lefty going up against right-handed and Manning. At top of the order, Larnach's been hitting in that 3 spot on a great offense. Their implied run total is over 5. I like Minnesota. I think they're going to be another popular option. Another popular option, I think, is going to be Cleveland. Anytime that you can stack against Keller is a good time. So Cleveland, I would be focusing in on guys like Bradley, Jose Ramirez. Franmil Reyes is still way too cheap. Cesar Hernandez. You can just jam in all these guys. And really, it's not going to break the bank with you, because if you throw in a guy like Manoa, who I think is going to be popular, and then say you throw in Morton, what do you get? Close to 4K remaining for everybody else. I mean, the salary is not an issue at all, especially because you have guys like Manoa and guys like Maida who are just way too cheap. So Cleveland. So those are like the 4 stud teams I'd be looking at: Boston, Philadelphia, Cleveland, and Minnesota. After them, I do love San Francisco and a lot of their lefties going up against Espino from Washington. So looking at guys, like, they're expensive, but like I just pointed out, their salary's not an issue. So guys like Crawford, Yastrzemski, they would be the first 2 guys I would be putting in. Make sure you're looking at Wade. He's day-to-day. I don't know about him. But guys like Duggar and Flores and, let's see, Dickerson, they have a lot of lefties in their lineup who can go off. So San Francisco, I do like their spot here. Houston going up against the Yankees. Who knows? The Yankees might have just like checked out and been like, we're done. Get us the All-Star break. We need to reset as a team mentally and get into the second half here. So Houston, I don't mind as an option either. San Diego, Chicago White Sox are in a nice matchup. Yeah, it's a 14-game slate. There's so many good spots here, and pitching is just gross. So there's going to be a lot of popular or a lot of teams in great spots. So if you want to fade the chalk of the Boston, of the Philadelphia, I don't blame you, because I mean, on a 14-game slate, there really shouldn't be a team that is 30% owned. But I mean, you could theoretically might be getting there just because of the matchups. So yeah. I mean, that kind of covers everything. Pitcher, batter. We will have videos out. We hope to see you guys back here tomorrow. We're going to have 2 videos out on Saturday. We're going to have a video out for the early slate and for the main slate. So make sure you stop back. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that thumbs up button. It really does help us out in providing this free content for you guys. And as always, good luck in your contests, and we will see you in the next video.